My name is Shanna, and I live here in Sandy, Utah, and I've been here for a while, like the place. But I would say that for my life in general, that it's been pretty interesting the whole time, which I think is actually a good thing because I don't know, I might be bored otherwise. Just had a lot happen. And so I would say that it even starts all the way back to where I first came into the world. And at that time, I had my mom and my dad and my sister who was 15, and my brother who was 16. And my father was addicted to heroin. And so very shortly after I was born, he went to prison for some of the things that he was doing. My mom's always had some learning disabilities and some struggles, and so that was hard for her. But we used state assistance, to help us and make sure that we could be okay. My sister, she had also gotten into drugs and was having a hard time, and so she was going back and forth with that. And then my brother was also having his own struggle. And so as I grew up into that, it was difficult most of the time. My sister also got into a lot of relationships where she experienced domestic violence. And so to see her have those bruises or see her engaging in those relationships, that was difficult too. And then when I was about 9, she took me around with her a lot. She was really into drugs. And so I spent more time with her and saw that side of things a little more. And with that, and also with missing school and the other struggles that I started having just as a person, trying to figure out, how do I live? What do I do? What are these things that are important to me? I ended up in the juvenile justice system. And so I very frequently went to juvenile court every couple of months. I was having a lot of trouble at school. And eventually what happened is that I was expelled from public high school in Utah, and then none of the other schools really wanted to take me. It was too much of a behavior problem. And so I went to alternative school. And then my friend, or a person I had met when I was still in regular public school, she talked about this Europe trip that the school was doing, and she said that she thought it would be great for me to go, that I needed to get away and experience some things. And so I decided to go. And I got a job and helped save up the money, and I went, and it was just like, wow, the world is huge. The world, there are so many opportunities. Look at all these places. Look at all of these people. And I really was reflecting on how the people that I knew, my mom, my sister, my brother, my father who had passed away in prison at this point, and how they just didn't seem happy. They didn't seem fulfilled. I mean, this just didn't seem to be working for them. And so it really made me think about what kind of life I wanted to have and what kind of family I wanted to have. And so when I went back to my alternative school after that trip, I got straight A's all that next year and made up all my credits, graduated from alternative school. And I thought, yes, this is good. I'm going to start my life. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get a degree. I'm going to have a family. I'm going to have a life. And in alternative school, I had met a boy, and I was dating him for a little bit. And I thought, I think it would be great just to get out of my house, get away, go with him, and then I can continue on this journey, having the life and the family I want. So we got married when I was 18, but that didn't work out. It was very much like some of the life that I had left, and so that wasn't going to work for me. But we did have one child at that point. So at that point, we got divorced, and I became a single mother, and I was so devastated at this point. So this was a really hard moment in my life as well, because I was on state assistance and I was a single mother, and I thought, what about that life I was thinking about? What about college? What about all the things I wanted to do? And now I'm in the exact same position as my mother was. And so that was really hard for me to accept. But then I thought, you know what? No, I can still do this. I can do this. And so I got on state assistance, or I was on state assistance, like I said. And they were helping to take care of some of the basic needs. And I moved in with my mother, and then I went to school more than full-time, double full-time. Especially since when I was on state assistance, they said they would only support school for 2 years. And at that point, I only had a year of college under my belt. So I had 2 years to get my bachelor's. And so double full-time, summers, everything to get it done. And I did. And while I was in college, I met the husband that I have now. And the funny thing is that's not actually the first time that I met him. When I was 7, my mom was working at this gym daycare, and him and I played together every single day. And so we reconnected. And we got married, and it was so exciting and so great. And the month that we got married, we both got our bachelor's degrees in that same month. We bought a house in that same month. And it was just great. And I was so excited and so happy because this was the life that I had been talking about. This was the family that I had been talking about. And he became such a wonderful father to my daughter. And then about 6 months or so into our marriage, we started talking about what do we want our family to look like and how many kids do we want to have and what is this going to be like for us. And I decided, well, I definitely feel the need to adopt. I feel like we need to, go out and find this child, that needs us and bring them in and really help them to have a better life. And he said, okay, great, let's do it. And so I was in my master's program at that point because I had decided to go on to graduate school so that I could practice individual therapy and group therapy and be that. So while I was in that, we were looking at our options. We became foster parents for about a year, but that was really hard emotionally. And the goal was reunification. And sometimes when we brought the child back to the family, the parents, they had done the things that they needed to do, but it's not always the great situation. And, with addiction and things like that, it's just an ongoing thing. It's not just solvable like that. So we only did that for a year. And then in the meantime, we also looked at other options. So we went through this adoption agency to adopt through Russia because we were thinking we wanted to adopt someone who was a little older. It would be harder for them to get adopted, 3 or 4. And then that agency went bankrupt and went out of business. So we thought, okay, that's not going to work. And then foster care is a little hard. So now what? And so we reconsidered and decided to adopt a newborn baby. And so we went to adopt a newborn baby, and the agency said, do you mind if the baby is not fully Caucasian? And we said, absolutely not. Okay, we're completely open. And so they said, okay, well, this process usually takes a long time, and that's fine. I said, oh, that's okay. I have about a semester and a half left in my graduate school. I can wait. We can be patient. And a month later, we got a phone call from a birth mother, and she said she was due in a month. And we said, okay, let's do it. And thankfully, that was around the holiday time, so I was going to have a big break from graduate school, and so it was going to work out well, thankfully. And so she flew here, and she had her son, and he is full African-American, but we were there in the delivery room, which was amazing. And we brought him home. It was wonderful. And we had him home for about 6 days. And we got a frantic call from another adoption agency that we had our name out to. And they said, this never happens. This is 1 in a million, but we have a 3-year-old boy here. The mother has had some involvement with the state, working to possibly even take him from her care, and she has decided to place for adoption and just find him a really good family to be with instead of go through that process. And they said, but the problem is everyone at these private agencies, as you know, wants newborn babies. And so we're the only family that said that they would go above a newborn, and so would you like to meet him? And we said, oh, wow, okay, well, let's do it. So we went to meet him, and he was just the sweetest, just cutest, most wonderful boy. And his history was a little bit difficult, and it also struck a chord with me because his father was currently in prison, and his mother was struggling with some substances, and he had been neglected and malnourished, so he was very behind, both developmentally and physically. And the hard part too is that we didn't know how much of the developmental delay was neglect and how much of it was actual developmental delay. So we had to decide what we wanted to take on here at this point, what we wanted to do. So we talked about it at length and decided it would be the right thing. So we brought him home too. So we have our 5-year-old, a newborn baby, and a 3-year-old, who has some of these other issues. So we get to work right away, get him in physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, to the dietitian to get him a nutrition plan and get him fed and healthy and happy. And within 6 months, he no longer qualified for an IEP. He had gained weight, he had grown, and he was speaking in full sentences. Because when he came home to us, he only spoke a couple of words. He didn't recognize his own name. He was still in diapers, and he had been occasionally, from what we had heard from the mom, he'd been locked in a room with some bread, but sometimes just really neglected for a while. And so that 6 months down the road, when he could do all those things, and he just had embraced the family, just really attached to us right away, so lucky and so wonderful. And so it was just amazing. And we took the holidays, because that's where it was. It was about November. And we just took the holidays to take breaks from everything and take time off work and time off school and be with these kids. And then they were all at my graduation for my master's degree. And I got a job part-time pretty quickly. And then I moved forward that way. So it was pretty exciting. And I was really happy because I have this wonderful husband and all these happy and healthy and wonderful kids. And it was just like everything had finally worked out. It was like the life and the family that I had always wanted, and that I wasn't sure for a while there that was what was going to happen, or that's what I was going to have. But then I did. And since then, it's just been the same thing. I mean, so thankful. The kids have just been happy and healthy and successful, and they have a variety of passions. And my husband is the most wonderful man that I've ever known, and it's just been great.